It's a Saturday morning in 1962. You're 7 years old, trailing behind your mother through the grocery store. Before you even reach the produce aisle, it hits you. The deep, rolling smell of freshly ground coffee, loud enough to fill the whole building. Then you hear it, a mechanical rumble from the red machine in aisle 3. Your mother hands you a penny without looking down. You already know where you're going. America didn't lose these things all at once. It lost them one quiet Tuesday at a time. Here are 10 of them, and why they mattered more than anyone realized. Here's what we're going to find out. What did a grocery store give away for free every single week? And why did millions of American families build their entire homes around it? What machine sat at the entrance of nearly every supermarket in the country and quietly disappeared without anyone holding a funeral? What did your grocery store do for you that no store today will even consider? And what was the last thing to vanish? So ordinary, so familiar, that nobody noticed it was gone until it already was. Here is what almost nobody remembers about S&H green stamps. In the 1960s, the Sperry and Hutchinson Company was printing more stamps than the United States Postal Service. More than the post office. Every time you spent money at the checkout, the cashier handed you a small strip of green stamps based on how much you'd spent. You took them home. You licked them, everyone, and pressed them into dedicated collector booklets, page by page. When you'd filled enough books, you drove to the local redemption center and walked out with a toaster, a lawnmower, sometimes furniture. A woman in Akron, Ohio in 1965 didn't think of herself as collecting stamps. She thought of herself as building a kitchen. When the recessions of the 1970s hit and grocery stores needed to cut costs, they made a simple calculation. Lower prices beat loyalty programs. The stamps disappeared from checkout counters almost overnight. Today, you get a digital points app that sends you a notification you'll never open. The booklets are still out there, half filled, in the backs of drawers across America. Nobody ever finished them. Before the barcode existed, every single item in the store wore its price by hand. A stock clerk, usually a teenager making $1.25 an hour, walked the aisles with a price gun, stamping purple or black numbers onto every tin can, every cardboard box, every loaf of bread, hundreds of items a shift. The rhythmic chunk, chunk, chunk of the gun was as much a part of the grocery store soundtrack as the muzak overhead. When you reached the checkout, the cashier read each sticker with her eyes and typed every price into a mechanical register by hand. If she misread a 6 as an 8, you paid more. If she was fast, the line moved. If she wasn't, it didn't. Here is what almost nobody knows. The first product ever scanned by a barcode was a 10-pack of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit Gum at a Marsh supermarket in Troy, Ohio, on June 26, 1974. One scan, one quiet moment in a mid-sized Ohio town, and the price gun started dying that afternoon. By the mid-1980s, the chunk, chunk, chunk was gone from every major chain in America. It took one invention about 4 seconds to make 30 years of muscle memory obsolete. Picture this. Your family's television goes dark on a Tuesday night in 1957. No repairman, no warranty card, no 1-800 number. Your father opens the back of the set, removes the glowing glass vacuum tubes one by one, drops them into a paper bag, and drives to the grocery store. Not the hardware store, the grocery store. Right inside the entrance, next to the gum and the candy bars, sat a large self-service machine the size of a small refrigerator. You plugged each tube into the matching socket, watched the needle. If it dropped into the red zone, you pulled a replacement from the cabinet below and paid about 89 cents. Your father was home in an hour. The television came back on in time for the news. Here is what almost nobody knows. At the peak of the vacuum tube era, the average American home contained more than 24 of these tubes across its televisions, radios, and hi-fi sets. The grocery store tube tester wasn't a novelty. It was infrastructure. Solid-state transistors made vacuum tubes obsolete through the late 1970s. The machines were wheeled out of stores quietly, one by one, with no announcement. The last one probably sat there for a year, with nobody using it, before someone finally unplugged it and rolled it to the back. Every week, you came back for the next piece. Grocery stores in the 1950s and 60s understood something that modern retail has forgotten. If you give a woman volume 1 of an encyclopedia on Monday, she will be back for volume 2 the following Monday, and volume 3 the Monday after that. Some stores offered ceramic dishware, 1 plate per week, a matching set built over months. Other stores gave out crystal drinking glasses, 1 at a time, with a minimum purchase. Here is what almost nobody knows. Millions of American households in the 1960s owned the exact same set of floral dinner plates. Not because they shopped at the same place, because every grocery store in the country ran the same promotion in the same season. A family in Des Moines and a family in Mobile, Alabama, sat down to dinner on identical china without ever knowing the other existed. When big box discount stores arrived and undercut grocery prices across the board, the weekly loyalty programs couldn't compete. You didn't need to come back for the next plate if you could buy the whole set at Kmart for $4. The days of completing your home library while buying milk are gone. Nobody has replaced what those weekly trips actually were, a reason to come back and something to look forward to. Here is something nobody talks about. The grocery store of 1960 was not just a place to buy food. It was the center of a neighborhood's weekly life. You saw the same cashier every Saturday. She knew your mother's name. The carry-out boy knew which car was yours. The store gave you stamps to save, tubes to test, plates to collect, a penny ride for the kids. It gave you a reason to be there beyond the transaction. What replaced all of it was efficiency. Faster checkout, lower prices, no one to help you to the car, no machine by the door, no stamps, no plates. Every single thing on this list was removed for a rational reason. Lower costs, better technology, liability concerns, sanitary standards. Every removal made perfect business sense, and every removal took something out of the experience that has never been put back. We didn't lose the grocery store. We kept the store and lost everything around it. After the cashier rang up your order, a dedicated bagger, usually a teenage boy in a white apron, packed your groceries carefully into brown paper sacks. Not plastic, paper. He folded the tops. Then he didn't hand them to you. He loaded them into a metal cart and pushed them all the way out to your car, waited while you unlocked the trunk, loaded every bag himself. Larger supermarkets had a dedicated parcel pickup lane. You got a numbered plastic tag at checkout, pulled your car around to the front loading zone, and the staff brought everything out to you. You never lifted a bag. Here is what almost nobody knows. In 1950, the carry-out boy was one of the most common first jobs in America for teenage boys. More common than newspaper delivery, more common than lawn mowing. When it came down to him, or a few cents on every bag, the choice was easy. Today, the self-checkout machine asks if you want help finding the bagging area. That's what replaced him. You paid a deposit when you bought it. You got the deposit back when you returned it. Milk, soda, juice, all of it came in thick, heavy glass bottles in the 1950s and 60s. When the family finished the drinks, you saved the empties in a wooden crate in the garage. On your next grocery run, you lugged the crate back in. The clerk counted the bottles, and the deposit came off your bill. The bottles went back to the local bottling plant, were washed, sterilized, and refilled. A single bottle made that round trip an average of 15 times before it was retired. Here is what almost nobody knows. The glass bottle return system was one of the most efficient recycling operations in American history, running decades before anyone used the word recycling in a grocery store. By the 1980s, the plastic bottle had won. Lighter, cheaper, no deposit, no return trip. The wooden crate stayed in the garage for years after the last bottle was gone. Some families still have them. You smelled it before you saw it. In A&P stores across America from the 1940s through the 1960s, a large industrial red coffee grinder sat in the middle of the aisle, or right at the checkout counter. You selected your bag of 8 o'clock coffee beans, poured them into the hopper, chose your grind, and flipped the switch. The machine was loud, a deep, rolling rumble that traveled the length of the store. Then, immediately after, the smell. Fresh ground coffee, warm and rich, filling every aisle from the bread to the frozen foods. Here is what almost nobody knows. 8 o'clock. Coffee was A&P's house brand, introduced in 1919 and sold exclusively through their stores. At its peak, A&P was the largest retailer in the United States, larger than any chain operating today, adjusted for its era. Instant coffee arrived. Pre-ground vacuum bricks followed. The red grinder was too heavy, too loud, too much maintenance for a store that no longer needed it. The smell went with it. Walk into any grocery store today. You will not smell coffee unless you are standing directly in front of the coffee aisle. The grinder filled the whole building. Nothing has replaced that. For 1 penny, later a nickel, then a dime, you could ride Sandy. Sandy was a mechanical horse, fiberglass, painted brown, mounted on a spring platform outside nearly every neighborhood grocery store in America through the 1950s and 60s. She bucked gently. She swayed. She lasted exactly 60 seconds per coin. Your mother used Sandy as currency. Behave in the store and you get a ride on the way out. It worked every time. Here is what almost nobody knows. The company that manufactured Sandy and her cousins, the miniature fire engines, the rocket ships, the race cars, shipped more than 50,000 mechanical rides to American supermarkets between 1950 and 1975. Insurance costs rose. Liability lawyers arrived. One by one, the rides were removed, first from the big chains, then from the independents. If you find a working mechanical horse outside a grocery store today, stop. Put a coin in. You are looking at something almost gone. Nobody checked your age. Nobody asked. In the lobbies of grocery stores across America, a large, brightly lit machine offered every cigarette brand available. Lucky Strike, Camel, Pall Mall, Winston, each with its own pull knob. You dropped in your coins, pulled the knob, and a pack dropped into the tray. 30 seconds, no questions. Teenagers knew exactly which stores had them and exactly how much change they needed. Here is what almost nobody knows. At the peak of vending machine cigarette sales in the early 1960s, more than 500,000 cigarette vending machines operated across the United States. Grocery stores, bowling alleys, hotel lobbies, diners, everywhere. Federal and state regulations through the late 1980s and 1990s required age verification that the machines couldn't provide. By 1994, most states had banned them anywhere minors could access. They didn't go quietly. Operators fought the regulations for years, but eventually the last machine was unplugged, and a 15-year-old boy's Saturday afternoon routine disappeared with it. Nobody mourned them, but they were part of the landscape for 40 years. And then they weren't. Before the styrofoam tray, before the plastic wrap, before the pre-cut, pre-weighed, pre-packaged everything, you walked to the meat counter and told the butcher what you wanted. He cut it while you watched, trimmed it, wrapped it in white paper and tied it with string, handed it over the counter. Under his boots, sawdust. A thick layer of fresh wood shavings spread across the floor every morning. It absorbed the blood, the water, the fat. It gave the butcher traction on a floor that would otherwise have been dangerous. At the end of each day, the soiled sawdust was swept up and replaced. Here is what almost nobody knows. The sawdust floor in the butcher's department was not a rustic tradition. It was a precise operational system refined over 100 years of butcher shop practice, brought directly from the old world meat markets of Europe into American grocery stores. Health Department regulations in the 1970s classified sawdust as unsanitary. Modern tile flooring became the standard. The sawdust was swept out for the last time and never brought back. The butcher is still there in some stores, but the counter is glass now. The meat arrives pre-cut, and the floor is the same tile as every other aisle. Something about it feels different. It is. 10 things, all of them gone. The stamps, the price gun, the tube tester, the weekly plates, the carry-out boy, the glass bottles, the coffee grinder, Sandy the horse, the cigarette machine, and the sawdust floor. None of them were taken away on purpose. Each one left for a reason that made sense at the time. But here is what they all had in common. Every single one of them made the grocery store feel like somewhere you belonged. Next time you're in a supermarket, move slowly through it for once. Look at what's there, and think about what used to be. Which one would you bring back? One item, one memory. Tell me below. Memory Lane America, one story at a time.